Jotunn is an exotic special fusion rifle obtained from completing powerful weapon frames in the Bergusia Forge activity. The main perk Charge Shots reads, hold to charge up a tracking shot that explodes and burns on impact. It also has Shield Disorient, which causes energy-matched shield explosions to disorient nearby combatants. So this weapon basically is a quasi-fusion rifle and grenade launcher. You charge up a round like a fusion rifle and then release it to send a massive round that tracks targets. In addition, it leaves a burning AoE effect on the ground for a few seconds that will deal additional damage. So to get something out on the table right away, I don't really like fusion rifles. They're clunky. As of this review, their damage is pretty low, and generally they don't have a really good home in either PvE or PvP. You have to really want to like them, and I just don't. However, despite all of that, Jotunn is probably one of my favorite weapons in the Destiny franchise to date. Let's get into why with some talk about PvE. In PvE, my main complaint with fusion rifles is that they just don't do enough damage to justify their charge time. They also have a range fall off on top of recoil, which makes them inconsistent outside of their perfect medium range. Jotunn ignores all of that since it fires a single bolt. You either hit or you miss, and you may get some splash damage. Chances are, if you hit the target directly, it's going to die. If it doesn't, then the fire damage left on the ground will burn out the target more. Most major enemies will take 2 to 3 shots, which just isn't that bad considering you can do that damage from extreme ranges. Since each shot does some pretty significant damage, you will probably stagger whatever you directly hit, so follow-up shots are going to be a lot easier to land since they won't be shooting back. Even damaging bosses is viable. I was taking visible chunks out of health bars of Forge bosses and other mobs of that level. The burn effect really got to put in some work there and makes Jotunn stand on a solid level for a PvE weapon. The thing I really can't understate is how awesome it is to have a fusion rifle type weapon that isn't bound by range and bolt spread. The single shot plus tracking makes this gun so consistent in PvE. Consider it a jack of all trades. In close range, you have to be a little bit careful that you don't hit yourself with some splash damage, but outside of that, you can ping targets at ranges normally reserved for pulses, scouts, or sniper rifles, and everything in between. I highly recommend going all in with fusion rifles and getting a reserve perk, 1 or 2 scavenger perks as well for your armor set. You'll hold a nice 20 rounds with a single reserve perk, giving you 4 total full magazines, and 2 scavenger perks will allow you to pick up 8 to 9 per brick. That gives you tons of ammo to have fun with. Now, moving over to Gambit, I was genuinely surprised by how versatile this weapon is. Range really shines in Gambit since you so often engage enemies at longer ranges just to stay safe. It will take out all the normal rank and file enemies in one shot, and generally 2-shot the beefier adds. On top of that, it demolishes blockers in 1 to 2 shots as well. That's a huge plus for me because I value how much special ammo I'm spending, and with the high ammo count and a few scavenger perks, you can really let loose with this gun. When it's time for invading, it's absolutely a force to be reckoned with. Its range combined with its high damage could let you cross-map some unsuspecting people. The tracking rounds will definitely help get that payload to your target, and you'll really only miss if something gets in the way. However, if the enemy is aware of where you're coming from, then it will be a little bit harder to hit those cross-map invade shots. It's fairly easy to avoid just by sidestepping the round, so try to pick targets that aren't really aware of you. When it comes to Primeval Damage, it certainly isn't a trench barrel shotgun, but it still does solid damage with a few Slayer stacks built up. Speaking of building up those Slayer stacks, Jotunn wrecks the Primeval Envoys, so use it on those if you aren't too busy invading and slaying out. Now, in PvP, good God, I haven't had this much fun in a while. Just listen to this giddy cackling. So let's get the obvious stuff out of the way. Yes, this weapon will one-shot on a direct hit. Yes, you can damage multiple people and even get multi-kills off a single shot since there is an AoE effect on the ground. Yes, you can cross-map people since it has tracking. Yes, this is in fact a special weapon, not a heavy. The only things I had to get used to were the charge time on each shot since I don't really use fusion rifles, and leading my targets. Leading targets just took a few games to get used to. In the close ranges, you need to basically predict where your targets will be, similar to a grenade launcher, if they aren't running directly at you. At the longer ranges, scope in, but don't have any high hopes that the bolt will land if your target is moving around a lot. If you are shooting at someone who slides around and jumps a bunch, then they'll be moving way too fast for the tracking to really do anything. The thing I didn't expect from Jotunn in PvP was just how much damage it was doing on direct hits. In total, a direct hit deals 357 damage. That kills through almost all overshields, and will usually mean 2 direct hits to kill someone in an active super. Despite all the fun I was having, I'm not entirely sure if this gun could be considered anything outside of a fun gun to make people miserable in quick play. In a comp setting, I feel like people will be able to easily play around Jotunn's quirks. The fact that your shots have a pretty significant travel time to them means that you just have more opportunities to get shotgunned or 3-tap with Lunas. If you're looking for an exotic fusion rifle to make people tilt in comp, I think Telesto is still going to be the best play here since it counteracts the comp meta of shotguns so well. I didn't really know what to expect from Jotunn when I first got my hands on it. Fusion rifles never really strike me as fun weapons due to inconsistencies of the bolts. Since Jotunn doesn't have that issue, I found myself quickly enjoying the power that it offered. In PvE, it's incredibly fun to just blow stuff up and take chunks out of bosses' health. In PvP, I think I found another weapon to add to my arsenal of I'm going to be the one having all the fun in this lobby. On an ending note, I really have been surprised at how awesome the Black Armory exotics have been so far. They all have a solid power level that allows them to stand on their own in a competitive sense, but more importantly, they really take the idea of what exotics should be into account. They don't hold back on the unique thing that they're trying to do for the sake of balance. When that is an issue, they're balanced differently in PvE and PvP to make sure it offers up something worthy of an exotic slot for that activity. If you found the video informative, a positive rating would be appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.